Hello, everyone. This is our Mother's Day Proverbs Woman Bible study. We're just going to pick up where we left off. Enjoy.
Okay, so she speaks with wisdom. This is verse 26. And faithful instruction is on her tongue. So we're homeschooling, so we did it. What else? No. Next verse? No. I think that's probably one of my biggest problems. I know that as a Christian. Thank goodness I'm not a woman, so I don't have to deal with this. No. Okay, yeah, I do have to deal with this. I do have to deal with this too. It's like, I believe it was John that said your tongue is like a rudder and it steers the whole ship. And that's 100% true. And sometimes I could control my tongue a little better than I do. My tongue can get out of control sometimes. But what a mark of someone's strength and their integrity and their relationship with God when they can be wise and wisdom and faithful instruction is on their tongue. Also, whatever you're filled with, that's what's going to overflow as well.
Yeah.
Do you see anything else in that verse that just kind of leaps out at you, or
No, that's
from your
what I
perspective?
was thinking. What you were saying.
Maybe I should come to you first. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Verse 27. So,
What would the bread of idleness be?
I'm guessing that's just a figure of speech for just
Oh,
partaking in idleness, but I don't know. I guess it could be anything in your life that also induces that. So I think that mostly it's a figurative, like just a phrase to say don't be idle.
Mm-hmm.
You're partaking in the bread of idleness.
Right. I know.
But I think it could actually be these things in your life that take the edge off. There are certain things I do that can put me in a lazy mood. I know that. I don't know if all humans are like this, and I tend to think some, maybe they're not as much like this, but when I am working, I can't stop working. And when I stop working, there's almost nothing that can just make me want to get back up and work. I don't know. I don't know if that has anything to do with it either. People have inertia almost.
She's not being lazy,
Mm-hmm.
and
Also, bread can make you lazy.
right.
Like, just bread literally can make you lazy if you eat too much of it. It makes me crash.
She's staying involved with what's going on around her house.
That's true. The affairs of her household.
She's staying involved in the affairs, literally, of her household, instead of just being idle and just sweeping it under the rug because she doesn't feel like dealing with it.
And doing so shapes the world, as we already said. So that's an amazing thing there. Her 28. Her children. Now this is the big one, right? Her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her.
I think this is important because, we've read a
thought you
lot about.
I thought you would.
Well, we've read a lot so far about how hard she's working.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and as we know, being a mom and a dad, a lot of times you have to make tough calls.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to
That's
do
right.
things that people don't like.
That's true. That's true.
And so, how good to know that, in the end,
you get some comfort.
you get some.
They do understand eventually. Yeah, that's the thing. I catch myself saying that all the time. At least as a dad.
And honestly, that's one of the first things I think we learn as parents is that even when we have to punish our kids, they still love us. They might in the moment say, "I hate you. I don't ever want to see you again," or whatever. People say stuff, especially kids, because they haven't learned to control their tongue at all.
Mm-hmm. And for any new parents, I would say you'll get to see it eventually, but just hang in there. Like as a teacher, I can tell you 100% that the kids, I'm not like a taskmaster. I'm not a taskmaster either. I don't mask them. But now in 2021 and 2020, I am a taskmaster. I'm like, you put on your mask. No, I don't really do that, but they do have to wear their mask. But that's just because of the parents. But the point, like, I'm not going to disrespect a parent's wishes and say, like, nobody, you don't have to wear your mask. But anyway, I'm a parent myself, so I know I don't want the school, like, undermining my authority. But the point is, I'm not a taskmaster. I'm not just, like, super stern, but I do draw a hard line. And when the kids run into me, they're going to run into a wall because they realize that, like, oh, he's unchanging, he's unyielding when it comes to things like that, because I want them to see Jesus in me. I want them to see God in me. And God is like that to a certain point. When you run into him, you're going to run into a wall. Jesus said, I am a stone, and some will trip on me and break, and those who don't, I'll fall on them and crush them. What he's saying is, I'm immovable. I'm not immovable in things that are morally, who cares? Like if a student wants to do something and it doesn't hurt anyone else or themselves, and they still get their work done, and they still learn, I can be a little more flexible with them. Like they want to do this project instead of that one, and they still learn the same concept. Like, okay, fine. So I'm pretty movable. But then when they run into something that's morally wrong, they realize they're going to run into a wall, because I want to show them what God is like. He's loving, he's compassionate, he's flexible, but he is also immovable, immutable, unchanging. And that's what I want to model for them. And when I do lay the law down, because I lay the law down, my students respect me and love me more. They love me more. Yeah. And it's hard to see with your own kids because you're so tied up in it emotionally. But with other people's kids, you see it a little more because you do grow to love them, but you don't love them like you love your own kids. I mean, come on, let's be honest. You can't love anyone like you love your own kids. It's just like a natural thing. You don't even have to try. It's just like, oh, he's there. He's a jerk, but I love him. I don't know. It doesn't matter what your kid's like, he could be an angel or he could be the worst kid ever, but you're still like, oh, he's so precious. Look at the way he's tearing up my house. But they do love you more for that. The kids require structure, and they like the teachers that let them do anything they want. Boundaries. They disrespect them. They completely disrespect them. And I have had students that other teachers, I get along with them. They do their work. They show me respect. We get along. We joke with each other. We have a great relationship. And then I come to find out they went to alternative school now. Like, wait, what? That's why he stopped coming to class? Yeah, he couldn't get along with his teacher. They sent him to alternative school. Like, what? How? Because that teacher let him run wild, and they disrespected him, and that relationship grew more and more volatile. Whenever you stand up and stand firm, and then your kids are gonna love you more. They're gonna love you more. And I've seen friends of mine whose parents were the sweetest, gave them everything they wanted, and the kids hate their parents. It's really sad to watch because I love my parents, and I don't like to see anybody's parents get disrespected. But it's true. I've seen it a million times in my life, and so I'm always saying as a dad, well, I love you enough to punish you, even if that makes you mad at me, and you think I'm less because of that. I would rather you think I'm less and you be mad at me, but you grow up to be a good person. Mm-hmm. And so I love you that much that if it costs me that, then that's what I'll do. So now, after my hour-long rant, is there anything you want to say? You brought it up, though, I think. Mm-hmm. I think that is very reassuring, because sometimes it can feel like that when you're, getting onto your kids. You don't want to
I was basically just going to say the same thing, that, that's what I've seen with my own kids is when, I do punish them for the things they do wrong. In the beginning, I worried, oh, how are they gonna act towards me now?
Yeah.
But they seemed like they loved me more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it really is true. Kids like boundaries.
They do.
They may act like they don't, but they really do, and they need boundaries. And people need boundaries.
Oh yeah. That you can't have freedom without boundaries. So a lot of times in this country, in this age, there's a lot of silly, kind of immature thought going around about like full autonomy. You hear the word autonomy, where people can just do whatever they want, but there is no freedom if people do whatever they want. So if someone wants to hold you down and hurt you, well, they got to be autonomous. Yeah, but you're not free. You have to have rules to be truly free. And that's kind of what God gives us. He gives us these guidelines to help us, not to hurt us. He wants to have as much fun as we can without destroying ourselves. And so that's, he does that, and he liberates us from our sins. And so we are truly, truly free, but we can't be free without those guidelines. I promise you 100%. Let's see, where did we leave off?
And her husband also
praises her.
And he praises her.
And husbands, that's something we could probably remember to do more often. I'm horrible about this. I don't know if it's, I think probably because of my dad. I'm not gonna, my dad was he was a good dad. He always provided for us, but he wasn't a mushy gushy. He never shared his feelings. I'm not gonna say he never said he loved us. He did, but he was not a huggy, squeezy. He didn't compliment hardly anyone. When he did give you a compliment, it made you feel like you were 136 feet tall because he didn't just throw that stuff around. But I think I identify with it. I don't think I give enough compliments. I know things in my heart. I love my wife. I love my children. I'm proud of them all the time. I hardly ever say it. I don't know why. I think, like I said, I think I get that from my dad, and I don't, like I said, I'm not blaming him. It's my fault. He's not my owner. He doesn't, he doesn't control me with mind control, but I think, I did kind of pick that up because he was my model and my example, but we all could probably do that more.
If you like the behavior someone is exhibiting, giving them the reward of praise helps to make sure that they will continue in that path.
That's right. And I know that 100% is true.
We do.
I just am bad at doing it. I'm really bad at doing it. I'm a criticism person. Unfortunately, I have to try so hard to remember to tell my students. I always try to tell them positives. And some teaching theories say some say you don't. Like some, they say the compliment sandwich, and some say don't, because if you give them compliments, then they won't take the criticism at all. They'll just hear the good stuff. There's a lot of different theories out there. So before any education people go crazy on this, I understand that. But what I was saying is I do try to remember to tell the students what they're doing right, because I tend to learn by mistakes. So always teach this is what you did wrong. Or well, do I ever do anything right? I had one student say, you always find something. Yeah, we can always do better. And I'm sorry, but a lot of times I forget that, you don't know that if I don't say anything, I must think it's okay. Because I'm telling you all the things I don't like, everything else I like.
You definitely need
I do try not to be that way.
I've seen this with our own kids, when sometimes when you compliment them, for some reason they go the opposite way.
They do. That's a whole theory on that too.
But usually, when they do a good, Elijah especially, he's really good about this. Elijah, you did a really good job. And he tries even harder the next time.
I noticed that just working on the truck the other day, and then he followed me around the rest of the day trying to help me. Jacob does really well with that too. I don't want to just make this a thing about our family, but it is true. I see it. Where are we? There were children rise and call her breast, and then 29. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Wow. I feel like that for any Christian, male or female. At least that should be our goal. I kind of think, back to the verse, well, even a pagan does that.
Yeah.
Even the pagans do that. Yeah, they love people they care about, Even a pagan does that, but you're a Christian. You gotta love your enemy. That's what I think about when I see that.
That's what I was thinking too.
It's almost like Jesus was God. Okay, anyway. Yeah. Okay, you surpass them all. Verse 30, charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Amen. Back to art, when I teach my students and we talk about what's real, so I try to teach my students not to use the word real to describe art that looks naturalistic, that looks like you would see it with the naked eye, because a lot of times what you see isn't necessarily what's real. And one of the examples is like, you might find a person that you want to date and they may be absolutely beautiful as far as their body and their face, but then they treat you like garbage and they just abuse you mentally, physically, emotionally. They disparage you. They are unfaithful to you. They do all this stuff. Is that person really beautiful? So is what we see with our eyes, is that what really boils down to what reality is? And so, I think that's like a great thing. You marry someone just because they're beautiful looking. Of course you got to be attracted to your spouse. But, that ain't going to last forever.
And on that note, because we're talking about what your soul looks like right now. Mm-hmm. This says a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised.
That's a good point.
So you could be a kind person, but does that make your soul beautiful? Or is it your relationship with God? Because what if you're totally lost? You're nice to people.
Yeah, and it depends on your disposition as a person, but yeah, there are people who are naturally good, nice, loving, tender-hearted people without Christ. They don't even need Christ for that, for the most part. Now, who knows what goes on in their heart, but I think there are people that genuinely find it easier to care about people than others. I was always tender-hearted to an extent, especially when I was younger. I think the world started to make me more and more jaded as I got older. But, there are people who are easygoing apart from Christ. Christ says it's good to be meek. It's good to be humble, but there are people who are humble without Christ. And is that is that enough? No.
At least they act
humble. Yeah, at least they act humble.
Are they truly humble? I don't know.
Even if they are, do they have anything to not be humble about? We're all sinners and we're slaves to sin. But a Christian is the son of God. They know their value. They know their worth. They may have to be reminded from time to time, but they have to remember also to be humble and that He who is first is last. So I think many people can remember more often that they are the son of God and they are the daughter of God, and that God valued them so much that He did what He did on the cross. But there are also some of us who could probably take a couple steps, could be knocked down a couple rungs, And yeah, another thing I'll just throw out that I said before. To be married to a Christian, you do not want to be unequally yoked. I couldn't imagine. Number one, your goals and everything you believe and the foundation of everything is not the same. It's like C.S. Lewis said, that if Jesus was wrong, who cares? He's of no consequence whatsoever. But if Jesus was right, then He's the most important thing in the universe ever. And so He's either the most important or not important at all. There is no in between. There is no Jesus is kind of important. He either is or He isn't. He's either the ultimate or He's not. And I think that's the same kind of thing here. How can you be in a relationship with someone who's not like that? Number one, I think you're gonna find trouble like that. And then number two, people are slaves to sin, and sin is such a terrible problem. And do you really want to be married to a person who is 100% they're okay? They're okay with their sin in a way, They don't think they're that bad, and they don't try to please God. They have no desire to please God. And when people are pleasing God, they're going to please you. We got one more verse left. Verse 31. Give her her reward she has earned, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. So this is a tricky verse. I guess, it kind of goes back, I guess it goes back up here to, her children or her husband praise her. And that we should praise these people. But I guess at the same time, I would just kind of throw out there, definitely, we probably don't run the risk of this. I'm going to say it anyway. I think if anything, we probably don't praise our women enough because they really are amazing. And, sometimes I see women doing stuff I couldn't imagine. They really are remarkable beings. So, they were made for us. They were made to be with us and complement us. You can get that in Genesis. But I'd also say, our reward is also, our reward is in heaven. And Jesus said, if you're doing things for a reward here on earth, you've already got your reward. Mm-hmm. But I would say, don't expect this reward, but you should definitely get it. You definitely deserve it. And I think that's what this is kind of saying. I would just kind of balance it out with the rest of the Bible and say you just shouldn't do it because of that. You do it to honor God. Mm-hmm. But you should get praise for it. And you will, whether you get it here or not. So, all right. Well, I think we made it all the way through. We did it. Okay. Well, I don't know if I'll do any more of these on this channel. I guess I'll see how well they take off. Or, I'll see how I feel about it, whatever God leads me to do. I started this channel initially to combat some of the ridiculous ideas, kind of like I mentioned earlier, that are floating around, that are kind of childish and immature, but seem to be readily acceptable by everybody, at least in pop culture. And so, I started this channel basically to combat that, because I feel like people with God, we know where our value and dignity and purpose comes from. We know what's right and wrong. But people who don't have God, or they don't even have a real strong family tradition, they could easily see our pop culture fantasies as reality. And that's kind of scary, because those fantasies are fantasies. Mm-hmm. They're kind of like vicarious living, kind of role-playing things out in our media. But some people might take that as serious if they don't have any foundation, and they make that their foundation. How detrimental. And so that's why I started this channel. But I do, what's more important than God's word? That's a great way to combat a lot of the ridiculous ideas that the world has to offer. Jesus says, don't conform to the world. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you, Rachel, for taking your time to make these videos with me. I know it takes a lot of time, because I don't even make the videos I should. So thank you for taking your time when you already have to stay up late and get up early and produce everything for the world and shape the world. I love you. I thank you for everything that you do. It's a lot to live up to be a Christian. I mean, even in here it says a lot of people do noble things, but we got to do even more than that. All right, everyone, until next time.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing.